So I want to just say a few things, sort of speaking to the fact that stand-up's quite a scary thing to do. So first thing is something that I do on these courses and always have done is I want to draw out how you're funny. So it's not like I'm going to be trying to get you to do something. It's you bring yourself and how you're funny, and I'll help you do that better. Is the idea of the course, rather than this is what a stand-up comedian does, so you have got to try and do this. So sometimes people think stand-ups are very charismatic and witty and confident. Well, if you are charismatic, witty and confident, well, great. It's a no-brainer to go on stage and be that. However, that's only one way of being on stage, and it's only one way of doing stand-up. If you're kind of awkward and shy, well, go on stage and do that. Exaggerate that awkwardness and that shyness, and that could be why you're funny. Or if you're a bit moody and angry, well, be that. Or if you're sarcastic or rude or stupid or whatever it is, it needs to kind of come from you, but it's this part of you that you can put on stage and exaggerate a bit and kind of play around with. That's the sort of you that will ultimately be on stage. And something I really like about this course is there are some courses, won't name any names, but there's kind of almost like a house style of the course. There's kind of like a style of comedy that's taught, and everyone is doing that style of comedy at the end. Like if I know a course that's quite focused on a one-liner kind of style, so everyone at the end is, in their own ways, but they're kind of doing one-liners. Whereas I do teach one-liners, but we kind of approach comedy from lots of different perspectives. And at the end, all of you will be doing something different. So there might be a couple of people doing one-liners, but there could be someone doing confessional stuff, really sharing the pain of their life. There might be someone doing political stuff. There might be someone doing surreal stuff. There might even be someone doing musical stuff. If you can play the guitar or something and you're thinking, maybe I could do that in my comedy. That's a possibility. So everyone will be doing something different at the end. And this course has been going a long time, and it is a successful course. And I think one of the reasons why it is because of that. It kind of empowers you to be funny in the way that works for you. So there's that side of it. So something else that is something about how I teach that I think helps is, something I discourage is writing a script, learning it, and then standing on the stage trying to deliver this script that you've written. So I discourage people from doing that. And in fact, it's also the case that there are some courses that encourage you to do that, or want you to do that, or even say that you must do that. But I think differently from that. So that's not to say don't write a script. If I was sitting there in your place now, I might be thinking, bloody hell, I actually like writing scripts. I enjoy writing. I don't know if I like the sound of that. I want to write a script. Well, if you want to write a script, I'm not saying don't, but just don't learn it. Really, really familiarise yourself with it and understand why it's funny and what the beats of it are and what you're trying to say and the rhythm of it and the journey through it. Really get on top of it, but then just come up and speak it afresh. Because stand-up's all about you being in the moment. And if it's about you trying to remember how you were at home, say, when you were rehearsing it in your kitchen, and you're trying to say it exactly like you said it then, you're not in the moment with the audience. And so it would be like having a date and thinking, this would be a funny story to tell my date. Let me just write that down and then learn it. And then, so when you're sitting there in the date and I'm looking at you and suddenly in this fantasy world I want a date with you. You're a very handsome man. No problem with that. But you're sitting in the date and you're trying to remember the story and recite it word for word. It's going to be a bit stilted and awkward. And so in the gig, I'll come back to you. So something to a good analogy is that a stand-up gig has got a lot in common with a social occasion. And the more you kind of the more you kind of hold it that way and feel like almost like this audience of people I'm meeting socially, and and the kind of feeling is what's on my mind and what do I want to talk about, and let's have a bit of a laugh with these people here who are my mates. That's the kind of attitude to have to the audience. But what were you going to say?
I was going to say, why do you think people insist on writing a script, but to get away from the risk of having to like ad lib a bit more?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I don't know. I can't speak for them, but again, I'm thinking. With one particular course I know where the teacher's very rigid on that. But it's kind of. Some people can make it work, but you can also end up in the rabbit caught in headlights, desperately trying to remember this exact wording. And the thing that you write it's only a blueprint for you to say stuff. So the other extreme is you can't really go up with nothing and expect it to work. Phil Kay is an extreme example of, he certainly always used to go on stage with pretty much nothing and ad-lib and wing it and play around. And because he's a bit of a genius, sometimes it was amazing. But even though he's a bit of a genius, often it would also fall flat and be painful. So he was kind of walking that tightrope. So you can't go to the other extreme and go, well, I'll prepare nothing, or it would just be unbelievably loose and I'll busk it. That doesn't work either. So I know there are some people that kind of really like that. I think, oh my God, that's great. I'll just write bullet points, or I'll just record some voice notes and get a sense of it and then talk it afresh. But then there are other people who do want to do a script. And I know I've had people kind of confess to me, oh, that was quite, I did kind of almost try and learn that. But it's fine. You've also got to do what suits you. But I would say the key thing is sort of almost learn it. And if you are someone who really likes scripts and are quite precise with how you phrase things, I would say it's really helpful to identify which parts of that you really do need to phrase as written, and which parts of it can you sort of paraphrase, and which parts of it can you sort of leave open to find exactly how you'll say it in the moment. Yeah, so there's that kind of how you'll prepare this stuff. And so people get very frightened of doing stand-up, and something else that can kind of help is stand-up is as much about talking about how it's going and what's happening in the room as it is about the thing that you're actually doing. So if you're standing there saying stuff and it's not particularly landing with the audience, well, you can comment on that, and then that can become funny. Or if people are looking a bit bored in the corner, you can comment on that. That's the kind of the great thing about stand-up, is it isn't like a play when you're sort of behind the fourth wall and the show must go on, you've got to ignore all these problems, try and make out there's no problem and carry on. All of the kind of problems that are happening, either with your performance or out there in front of you, they're all things that you can play around with and comment on and do stuff with. So that kind of makes it really safe in a way. If you're kind of comfortable enough being in the moment, being a bit playful, it's kind of safer than you think, because you say you've written a joke and you're going to say it quite near the start and you hope it's going to be funny. Well, what you also write is what I call a recovery line. You've got the line that you say if in fact they don't laugh. So you've got the joke, nobody laughs, and then you go, oh, that sounded funny in my head. And then they do laugh, and off you go. So, yeah, it's not that kind of high wire act of it's all got to be right or you're fucked, It can go wrong and still work. That's one of the great things about stand-up. I opened the window because it was a bit stuffy, but I think it's got a bit better. It's quite cold. I'll close it. Oh, there. I'll shut this now. I think everyone's just going to... I know that someone called Hannah is going to be joining us. We couldn't make it tonight. I think there's one other who hasn't made it. But anyhow, I think everyone's here is going to be here. So there's that. And really, stand-up comedy, it's not dissimilar from when you're with your friends and you're making your friends laugh. So kind of thinking about how you make your friends laugh and what you're like with them. The one difference, though, and this is where it does become challenging, is when you're with your friends, you do it when you feel like it. And if you don't feel like being funny, you don't have to. Whereas, if you've said, I'm going to do comedy and I'm on stage at 22 minutes past 8 on this date, and I'm up there for 5 minutes, you're going to have to be funny over and over again for that 5 minutes, several times a minute, whether you feel in the mood or not. And so that's quite a big difference. But however, kind of the way you're being is not fundamentally different, or it needn't be fundamentally different from how you are when you're funny with your friends. Okay, so that's a bit about the course, that's a bit about kind of how I look at stand-up, and how maybe it needn't be this huge, scary thing. I mean, it's always going to be a bit scary, but the thing with when the show comes, you'll be fucking bricking it before you go on. However, as soon as you're on the stage and you've got the first laugh, you will relax. And so something we work on later on is getting that first laugh in as quick as you can, because that's the thing that relaxes you and relaxes the audience. So we'll look at that. But it's amazing, the transformation. As soon as they've laughed, you just go, oh. And then you can just enjoy it. Yeah.
What do you do for if you're doing some comedy and you feel nervous? What is the thing that you do?
So what I do now, happily for me, is so I direct and script edit and coach. So I no longer have to go up there and do it. But however, the one tip that I would give you, and this is from when I was doing it a long time ago, I mean, like literally 20 years ago or more, is talk to people, have conversations. Because what nervous people tend to do is hide around the back or pace outside or desperately run their lines. Whereas it's way better just to chat to people, and ideally chat to people in the audience and think, there's a couple of people stood at the bar, look a bit friendly, I'm going to go off and say, oh, hello, you're here for the comedy, where are you from? I'm on a bit later. Yeah, you're brave, I can do it, have a bit of a chat. And if you kind of make it your mission to see if you can make them laugh, it's kind of amazing how much it settles you, and it kind of puts you in the right frame of mind to then go on stage. And not only that, you've now got some allies in the audience. I would say that's really by far the best thing you can do.